A very warm welcome to the day two of two-day APAC School Tech Innovation Conclave. Yesterday, the day one of the conclave, we saw some amazing participation and we had a wonderful inaugural session with participation from the government school education sector, Dr. Biswajit Saha, who's the Director, Training and Skill Education with Central Board of Secondary Education, also, Professor Saroj Sharma, who is the chairperson for National Institute for Open Schooling, delivered the keynote address in the inaugural session. Followed by, we had a very relevant and interactive panel discussion on future of school education and admission 2021, also significance of emerging technology in school education, learnings from online school education, and this morning we uh, had a session on challenges in rolling out national education policy 2020 and the hurdles due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now we have yet another important session. In the previous session, the speakers talked about and emphasized on the skilling and training of teachers, while how essential it is to roll out the national education policy. Now, these particular sessions theme and topic is very relevant. Uh, there is a need for reskilling of teachers in this new normal in order to have a holistic approach when the blended learning is said to be the future. Both digital as well as physical education are said to be of utmost importance. And to moderate the session, we have Mr. Amey Parulkar, who is the head of business development finance peer. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Amey.
Thank you so much for hosting us. Thank you, Sudhir. As always, it's wonderful to be a part of the APAC News Network.
Pleasure to have you. We have a senior educationist, Miss Anjali Razdan, Dean with Education Rockwoods International School, Hyderabad, and Education Advisor, Solan Public School. Glad to have you, Miss Razdan. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much, Sudhir.
We are also joined by Preeti Kwatra, Chairperson for Petals Group of Schools. Thank you very much, Miss Preeti, for joining. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Sudhir. Thank you so much.
We are also joined by Amrita Burman, Deputy Director, Sunbeam Group of Schools. Thank you very much, Miss Amrita. Thanks for joining.
Welcome. It's an absolute pleasure to be here as always. Thank you.
Also joined by Dr. Amrita Vohra, who is the Director Education, GEMS International Schools. Welcome, Dr. Amrita.
Thank you. My pleasure.
We are also joined by CEO of Poddar Brio International School, Miss Rashmi Singh. Welcome, Miss Rashmi Singh. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
With this, I would like to hand over this session to Mr. Amey Parulkar to moderate the session. Over to you, Mr. Amey.
Thank you so much, Sudhir. So yes, I believe the COVID-19 pandemic is a once in a century instance. And I believe it also has now presented us with the rare opportunity of delivering compelling and a lasting change in the educational sector. I believe we all have in certain ways through our own mediums gone ahead and brought about a certain change. We've gone ahead and we've adapted to the kind of online education or the kind of new method of teaching has evolved into. So firstly, I would like to thank all of the panelists for joining us. And I would like to understand from all of the fellow panelists as to how we are going ahead and how we are coping up with this entire COVID situation that we are into today. So I have a quick question for you, Anjali ma'am. Yeah, we all know that COVID has introduced us to online learning, right? So how has digitization impacted the core of teaching? So initially we always went ahead and we realized the fact that it's always a guru and a shishya kind of a concept. So in today's day and age, how has that changed, and how has digitization impacted teaching? Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Amay. Yeah, it has, as usual, digitalization always brings in more efficiency in any system. So it has happened in the education sector as well. Um, there are pros to it, there are cons to it. I would say the pros part of it is that, of course, it has brought enrichment in the subject delivery. Every content now, which was very abstract in the classroom pattern, one to one, has become pretty much realistic now because of so many kinds of videos and platforms that we can use to enhance learning. The cons of it would be, I'm begging you very quickly. The cons would be it has lost the touch. The touch which we had, human touch, where we were with in contact, with children. That kind of looking at their faces and understanding whether they understood, checking for understanding, was just with the look the teacher had on their 40 kids, 30 kids, whatever. And also that part where there would be the kids going out, there would be kids experiencing the weather, the sunshine and stuff like that. Those are the fallouts, I would say, of digitalization. The best part, of course, as I said earlier, is it has enriched in a lot of ways. It has made things understood much better. I guess that's the quicker answer for us.
Absolutely, that was really crisp in terms of the answer. But one of the things that I wanted to understand is that yes, the human element is missing today, like you very eloquently mentioned. But how is Rockwood International trying to cope up with this? Is there any way in which probably there's something for the rest of the panelists or us to learn from what Rockwoods is doing for this?
You mean, okay, coping up? Well, very, very, I would say marginally, is that you can introduce a lot of things other than academics in the teaching learning scenario. So other things would be there is physical education, definitely, that can be done through law, on your online basis. So the teacher stands there in their room and the kids stand in their room, and then they do some certain exercises. There is art also which can be done in long distance mode. There is the meditation. There are quizzing and activities. There are a lot of platforms now which can compensate for a little bit of activity. There's competitions, drawings, and other things going on. Even annual days have been actually done on online basis. So these are compensatory measures taken to see that how best we can cope up with what we have, the digitalization. All said and done, we still are missing the personal touch. I hope that's it.
Absolutely, absolutely, Anjali, ma'am. And one of the things that you mentioned, which really does strike a chord, is the fact that today I think children are just sitting in front of an LCD screen all day. So I think when they pick up a pencil and they start drawing something, or probably when we are talking about crafts, or when we are talking about art, or maybe some kind of exercises, it does help. It brings out a very, very good change. You're away from the LCD screen. You have a paintbrush and some watercolor in your hand. So yes, those are some fantastic means through which I'm sure it would help a lot of us. The next question I have for you, Amrita, ma'am, Amrita Burman. Uh,
Yes.
what do you suggest is the best method for addressing and upskilling challenges in the teaching workforce?
So I think everybody all over the world has been talking about the way teachers have really adapted, really had a very tough time initially, because many of the teachers, the more experienced, the ones who've been there for a long time, had issues of technology and were not really sold out to technology, because nobody really grew up the way the younger teachers had actually grown up with technology. So there were issues. So but then we couldn't live with those issues. So I think as leaders, we all thought it was very important to have our teachers adapt to the new methods. It was tough, but at the same time, I think when we decided to really handhold them, to motivate them, there were many areas on which we thought that upskilling was very important. So I think one of the most important, if I'm talking about my own experience from the first wave, the issues and the mistakes we made and how we learned and how we really changed and adapted ourselves, and I'm glad very quickly. So when we started with the online platform, to a large extent, because the teachers weren't really used to it, it was more of a replication of what they were doing in the offline classes, only to realize it doesn't work, and realize very quick, because classroom management was a big issue. Children weren't even coming to the classes because they obviously found it very boring. So the first thing that we did was we put them through lots and lots of training sessions. We put them through a lot of collaboration. We also, with time, started checking on student achievement to see which are the problem areas that we have, so that teachers could be given guidance on the workshops that they should be attending, or address issues which were issues which they had. So starting from how they could use different apps, how flip learning could be done more interesting, so that the child was motivated to come to the class the next day, because there was a lot of work that the child did on his own, and therefore took responsibility for his own learning, learned at his own pace. So basically the bond also started growing with the teachers, because teachers started delivering so much better on the online platform. So upskilling was done of the teachers by putting them through the right kind of workshops. We also had a lot of collaboration. Now, collaboration was not only necessarily outside of the Sunbeam group, it was also within the group itself, because obviously it's a very large group, and we've got some brilliant teachers. We had many of them who were really good already at it. So they were sharing their experiences, hand-holding. In fact, the younger ones started hand-holding the older teachers on technology. They had the maturity, they had the experience, but they didn't have the technological skills. So we kind of married both of them so that they could teach much better. So that was a lot on the academic front, how assessments could be done, how data analysis could be done, how remediation could be done at different levels, so that we could actually get time for more of higher order thinking skills. What mistakes we were making initially, we were just wasting a lot of our time on the lower order thinking skills, which children actually could do much better on their own in technology. So these were the upscaling areas that we did, put them through a lot of sessions. But one thing which even Anjali mentioned, which has become a big issue with a lot of schools, something that we had been addressing a lot on the offline platform. We had been talking a lot about social emotional learning and empathy, especially at this time. That came up as a big, big issue. Children were going through a lot of emotional issues, and in the second wave it's become even more pronounced, because there's been bereavement, there's been grief in the houses. Children have probably lost someone very close to them, or even parents, or even a sib. So that was a big, big issue. So we've taken our teachers through grief sessions. That means how to handle grief, how to listen to them. Circle time was already happening on the offline platform, but how do you do it in an online platform? So we took them through these sessions. So we really, really pretty much succeeded in connecting to parents, to students, and giving them as much of that healing touch as we could when it came to the online platform. So these were the areas where we motivated and took our teachers through to upscale and upskill themselves. And to a large extent, it's worked.
Indeed, indeed. Amrita ma'am, just a quick question here. So, like you rightly mentioned, right, the students have a certain skill set. They've gone ahead and they have optimized that, and you worked around going ahead and working around those skill set itself. Do you think there was any resistance from the teachers, especially from the first wave, when it came to online teaching? Do you think there was some reluctancy? There were some concerns from teachers where they were not very comfortable in going into the tech or the online mode, because as you know, now the parents are watching. There are a lot more eyeballs on you. There's a lot more scrutiny as well. So do you think there was some resistance based on that?
Yes. For most of the teachers, as I told you, the ones who were a little bit more experienced but not very good with technology, there was. One, of course, was because their technological skills were not good. So we had to handhold them, motivate them, but we managed to win that over because they understood as they were doing better with technology, they were connecting better with students, the results were better. And more than that, as you rightly said, parents were watching. Parents started respecting. Your last question also mentioned about the guru shishya pattern. So I think guru shishya has come up in the biggest way when it comes to teachers, because parents and students have actually seen the kind of hard work that teachers have put. So the resistance was there, but they also managed to succeed when they worked hard, and when they saw that they were being respected for what they did, that resistance actually started going away. That was one part. The other thing that was there, resistance was not only because of technology, it was also because of finances and time and the issues they had at home. All of them were just shut up inside their houses. They were just locked in. No domestic help coming. Children also have to attend classes. There were not enough of devices. Wi-Fi became a big problem. And I'm talking from a small town. We're in a tier 2 town, Varanasi. So we do have these issues. Plus, salaries also become an issue. Fees is an issue. So there were a lot of interconnected financial issues. We had to help them through that. We had to give them extra aid. We had to give them extra help when it came to giving them money for getting their internet connections. We gave them a lot of subsidies on that from the companies. We also gave them additional amount, so including devices. So I think once we also analyzed what were the problem areas. So it's not right to just say they resisted. Why did they resist? What were the issues? These were basically the issues. And once we checked out on the issues and helped them in every possible way, the resistance started going down with time. I think it was barely a matter of a month and a half. Once they learned it, once they got assistance, once they got motivation, they were all fine. They were doing a fantastic job, most of them.
Lovely, lovely. In fact, that is really good to know, and I'm sure a lot of the other panelists will be sharing similar ideas, and they must have shared similar experiences as well.
May I
The
like to
next
add a
question.
little bit there? Can
Yes,
I?
yes,
I like to
yes,
add to what
absolutely.
Amrita ma'am just said. The best part of this part where initially the parents, when there was online normal education, there was to be a lot of complaints and grumbles and this and that and all by the parents, okay, about what's happening in the class, and your teachers are doing nothing and stuff like that. And now with the online, what has happened? They've discovered what it is to teach these 30, 40, these little kids out there, and then what it is to handle one or two at home. And so that's the best part that's happened in this online education discoveries. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add on.
Indeed,
Please go ahead.
indeed. I'm sure a lot of my friends as well, who are parents, resonate with the same idea that now that the child is home for the last 12 odd months, they kind of realize how difficult it is when one teacher is handling a batch of around 30, 40 students, in some cases even more. So, yes. The next question that I have, I would like to move on to Dr. Amrita Vohra. Doctor, my question here is, with the entire changing dynamics of teaching, right? What do you think are the skills which are needed for future teachers, people who are looking forward to teaching as a profession? So, what are the new skills that these teachers need to have to stand out while applying for jobs in any of these premier institutions?
Okay. Good question, Sudhir. And I agree with my fellow panelists in saying that yes, initial resistance is there, but it's important to understand why and then how we cope with it. Now, it's not just for teachers, but for any profession. Our very foundational literacies have changed. It is no longer, foundational literacies are no longer reading, writing, and so on. Computational awareness or computational literacy is at the heart of everything. Can you imagine employing anybody who does not know how to use an Excel today? Or a simple Microsoft Word, or maybe be able to have a meeting like this on one of the portals. So similarly for teachers, that has essentially changed, obviously. But that's a foundational literacy. That's not pedagogy. There is a whole different pedagogy that is required for teaching remotely, or remote learning requires that. And there is a whole different pedagogy again that hybrid learning very soon is going to require. Whenever this really tough time is behind us and we go back to school, and fingers crossed, hopefully very soon, because nothing, I think one thing that we've all learned despite all the goodness of remote learning, is that there's no replacing brick and mortar schools. There's no replacing the human teacher. No robots, no AI can replace them. In fact, AI or robots or machine learning and so on and so forth are only making it more and more clear to all of us that social emotional well-being and social emotional awareness, emotional intelligence, resilience, these are at the heart of everything. These are at the heart of success at any profession, for children, for teachers, for anybody for that matter. So those are the things that have really come out and stood strong. Human beings will not be really engaged in those things that AI can do, that a machine can do. We will have these humane aspects, and already we are talking humane technology, right? So these are the things that teachers really had to develop. We had to have, given the circumstances, we had to have empathy circles. We had to have, because relationships are the bedrock for success at anything. So if the student-teacher relationship, the school-parent relationships are not really functioning well, everything will be impossible. And everything, any challenge can be circumvented if the relationships are working well. And that's really at the heart of it. So communication and relationships is really the key. The school classroom, as my fellow panelists just pointed out, also actually transcended the idea of space and time. Now, this, as you brought in, it made the classroom literally visible to every parent, also visible to the scrutinizing eye, and also to the appreciative eye. So there were all kinds of responses that were bound to happen. People are different and they'll react differently. But what it also made possible was for the child, genuinely for the first time, education was in the hands, or learning was in the hands of the child. So learning was genuinely student centric. Now the teacher, who was probably doing a more teacher-led kind of lesson, where sage on stage or just lecturing or whatever, that was no longer possible, as my fellow colleague Amrita Burman tried to point out, that initially probably teachers tried that, but then it was evident it didn't work. They had to evolve that new pedagogy. And honestly, this wasn't really a new pedagogy. Yes, a whole lot of blended learning tools and apps and so on and so forth. So some digital integration definitely was needed, and we were on it. But luckily for us at GIS, at GEMS International School, was that this was writing on the wall. March lockdown happened, but it was pretty much writing on the wall back in January. Things had begun in other countries, and luckily we did manage to train our teachers and have a very, very well designed program on blended learning and everything back in January. So when we moved remote, we were able to do it very quickly and in a much more effective, let's say, way. And teachers felt, okay, yeah, we know this, we got this, that. And it's also very, very important, whenever there's any change, whenever there's anything different, it's important to, for every teacher, for everyone, for every child, for every parent, also to have this strong feeling that if it doesn't work, if I'm trying to do this, it doesn't work, no problems, somebody's got my back. So the leadership is there, they're here, they will be supporting me, so I got you. I mean, that feeling is important, and then people go venture out and work. Skills, yes, they require, but it's up to us. And I think skills, you can't just build skills at the beginning and then say, okay, now they'll be, because every day is about continuously improving. The minute we stop, so there's no longer a teacher. You talked about guru shishya. There's no longer a teacher and a learner in the classroom. There's a learner and a learner. The teacher has moved to being a co-learner today. Every day we are learning, and we're learning so much from our children. They are digital natives. Every generation is anyway always been smarter than the previous one. We are moving from man to Superman, right? So children do teach us every now and then. They are much more comfortable, and it's okay to learn from them. And that makes them also comfortable with this whole idea, and brings in a whole different kind of respect for people. And what we really want to inculcate eventually in children is growth mindsets, and that's what then happens when they see, okay, when they see this being role model, that my teacher has no forms asking me, okay, now how do I go about this? Okay, I'm stuck here, how do I share this? And children do help out, they feel important, and all of these things. I mean, what can we really teach them today which is not available at the click of a button? It is important to develop skills like critical thinking, creativity, and so on, which are beyond the written word in the curriculum, or the so-called whatever is put in the textbook. So that is where, and that's again, if we are wanting to develop it for children, we'll have to develop it among teachers also. So those are the skills that really we need in teachers.
That's very, very well put, Amrita ma'am. In fact, thank you so much for answering that question, because that was a bit of a curveball, to be very honest. Because when it comes to going ahead and explaining as to which are the skills which are going to be needed in today's day and age, it is quite a tricky question, and a lot of people are trying to get to terms to it. So the next question that I have is for Preeti ma'am. Preeti ma'am, in the just the way we spoke about right now, right? So in the new era of online teaching, where do you think is the concept of Guru Shishya anymore? Do you also agree with ma'am here, where you think that probably yes, both are learning a bit, and also where what do you think are the methods to keep students engaged and to ensure that there is gratitude for their teachers? Because today everything is online, you're just looking at a computer screen today. So how do we ensure that the students are engaged, and how do we ensure that that gratitude of learning is still there? Over to you, Preeti ma'am.
Thank you so much, Ame. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to hear from Amrita Vohra ma'am, Amrita Burman ma'am, and Anjali ma'am. See, whatever they have said, this question is answer to this question is going to be add on in this. As you have said, how to engage the children. This is the biggest challenge right now. Every school and every well wisher of the child is facing with, right? I think let me answer it serial wise as the words you have used. First, you have used Guru Shishya. According to me, you can't deny with this concept that Guru Shishya relationship is the most beautiful and the omnipresent relationship. Whether it is a mother or a child, mother is considered as a first Guru. Whether you call it a teacher or a child. Amrita Vohra ma'am was also correct. Now it's a learner, but I will call it an experienced learner, but young learner, right? That experienced learner need to usher the learning, that has to create a love for learning. Unless and until teacher is not able to create a love for learning, you cannot sow the seeds of gratitude. Whenever you have this feeling that this person is giving me onus to take decision, this person is teaching me something which is making me better, automatically gratitudes come. So Guru Shishya relationship mein, so Guru's responsibility nowadays has become multifold. See, this is such an unprecedented time. Everybody is going through so much of uncertainty of finance, uncertainty of life, uncertainty of relationship, and losing of their near and dear one, which in second wave have actually hit. So in this time, guru role and teacher role has to become a very, very important. Whenever children comes in the online class, there are one or two children those who are not able to come. Whenever we give them the call, we got to know something actually happened in their family. So teacher need to put the shoulder forward and tell the child that how to cope up with this service strategy. At this time, whenever child feels comfortable, whenever the child says, yes ma'am, you're saying right, I will try to come tomorrow, this is a feeling automatically brings gratitude. So teachers not only at this time have to only concentrate on academics, but on the, I think on online, they have to work on holistic development. They are have to present in a class in such a way that critical thinking has to come up. That inquiry based learning when comes up, when children ask, ma'am, why this, I have tried this and this has happened. As everybody knows that knowledge is available just a click away. So that means teacher need to ask that kind of a questions, so that child himself should have a urge to search for the topic. At our times also, it was a very common saying ki our parents used to say ki before the teacher teaches in the class that chapter, try to read it beforehand so that you will ask the right questions, right? And now also in online, I think before the class ends, a teacher need to create that kind of ending, so that there is a seed for that and curiosity for that, like let me study and let me research and tomorrow I will answer those questions. Now it's a teacher's responsibility whether she will ask in form of a quiz, whether she give it in form of some creative work, or whether she create a spreadsheet on a Google Doc. Nowadays every child is aware of technological tools, so that everybody can put their answers, so the teacher can give them the assessment. Because when technology is so easily available and AI is so comfortable with everyone, so I think we can use a lot of creative method so that children can start learning out of this. So I think it is a role of a guru, that how to blend that learning into a holistic development, so that children start having the feeling of gratitude and at the same time start feeling engaged and taking the onus. Right now the biggest problem what I am facing is that students are hardly feeling important to go on online class, because everything they can learn, because a lot of companies are offering recorded videos. But biggest flaw is that recorded video is a one-way communication. Recorded video is not engaging. It's just a very beautiful cartoon character, is not the teaching, right? So online teaching, where teacher is speaking, asking questions and engaging the student, and what kind of a question she is asking for the social emotional development, it is very, very important that communication should always be two-way, so that child take the onus of that and child think, yes, I was a part of this learning. Otherwise I think recorded videos, according to me, is a rote learning. Just like a koi song again and again, if you hear, you know the lyrics and the music, it's a crab learning. So I think this is from my side. Thanks for asking.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for those inputs, Preeti ma'am.
I like to
Uh,
add two bits, two
yes, yes,
cents to
Anjali
what
ma'am, always.
Preeti ma'am said. I
Please,
think I was
please.
very tempted to put it on. Is that I think you asked about whether Guru Shiksha, the parampara is lingering on even now with online education. Though Preeti ma'am said her best, I just have one point to say is that see there are two parts to knowledge transaction. One is the contents, the knowledge, real knowledge. The other is the transactional process, the platforms, tools, techniques, whatever else. So if you think that the tools, techniques, yes, both of them are equal. The guru and the shiksha today, the teacher and the taught, are equal partners in the tools and techniques and technology. But when it comes to content, knowledge is knowledge. That cannot be, that has no two ways about it. So the knowledge of the teacher used in a certain way doesn't enhance or decrease the guru's relationship with the shishya. So the knowledge definitely is, I would say, the tool or the empowerment of the teacher, which is still a guru position we compare to the shishya. But when it comes to technology, yes, both of them are equals. My two bit in that. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for those very, very insightful comments, ma'am. Rashmi, ma'am, I have a question for you here. Uh, how do you think uh, do private schools have a certain onus or a responsibility to help maybe government school teachers familiarized with teaching and the new teaching methods along with the technology? Also, do you think it is too much too soon for the private school teachers to start teaching maybe the government funded schools, or maybe trying to assist them on how to go ahead and how to work things out in terms of online teaching?
All right. Good afternoon, the esteemed panel. A very interesting question, though. Well,
Rashmi ma'am, I'm unable to hear you. Are the rest of the panelists able to hear Rashmi ma'am?
present
No, I think
things to the students, to the parents. However,
No, there is an
the
issue there.
government aided schools as well, they are
Maybe low
quite capable
bandwidth.
of handling their procedures and their school aspects. However, if someone comes to me to my school and someone tries to tell me, I think you need some help here, so would you mind if I help you there? So it all depends on me as the head of the institute whether I need help. So here comes the factor of collaboration, I feel. If, very humbly, if we could go and we could extend our help to the government funded schools, if they need the aid from private schools, any kind of aid, be it the use of technology in teaching learning, or be it all the different aspects that could help the online teaching in the government schools. So if they feel there is a need, of course we can definitely extend our help, because ultimately it's not about the private school or the government school. It's about the beneficiaries who are our children, whether they are in private school or whether they are in government funded school. They should be benefited. They shouldn't suffer any kind of academic losses in this era, which is an online teaching era. Almost all the schools are doing with it. So if I feel there's an assistance needed by the government funded school, it is definitely, if they ask for any kind of help, we can definitely help them out, because it is not the school we are helping the children. And that is what I feel. Apart
Indeed.
from that, I would just like to speak, few words that came from the discussion last.
Oh,
Miss
yes, please, ma'am. It's an open
Preeti,
forum.
I think she's, and one of the points she said, teacher, the guru shishya relationship. Well, I feel we learn a lot of things through Google, through different online platforms that is available. But how many of we as learners, whether it is teachers, students, how many of us go and greet the computer on Teachers' Day, or do flower offerings on Teachers' Day? We give our gratitude only to our teachers, because that is how they connect to us. Computer is a good tool of learning, but it can never replace teachers. Never. How do we wait to get encouraged? How do we get encouraged if we do something good? Today I have completed all the challenged assignments given to me, all the challenging work given to me by my teacher, and I'm waiting for my teacher to applaud me and to praise me that I have done a good work. The computer cannot do that. All right, so I feel the teacher's touch uh, in academics and learning cannot be replaced by computer at all.
Absolutely, Rashmi ma'am. In fact, I think the computer is just a medium, to be very honest, which connects them to a teacher at some point, whether they are referring to, say, a YouTube video or any kind of online classes. There is a teacher at the end of it who has actually put in that input, and it is just coming to us through this. Amrita ma'am, over to you.
So actually, this question of yours about the government schools, I just got tempted to add certain things, and I think almost all of us must be thinking in the same way. Coming from that community, education is obviously not a business with any of us. It's a passion. And I think maximum number of children in this country go to government schools. They don't come to us. We make a minuscule percentage. And the difference, therefore, we make is also a minuscule percentage, unless and until the difference that we are making, and we are making a large amount of difference, but we're touching the lives of very few children. So if we really want to make a difference in children's lives or in the country, we want to contribute, we have to reach out to the government schools. It's not really, we can't wait that somebody is going to approach us and then we'll make a difference. So in fact, the twinning program in the NEP is something which I think I completely appreciate, and I loved it. I was waiting that somebody would give me, but we actually have reached out to certain government schools because we were working with them initially. They don't have devices, they don't have internet. So a little bit of training has been taken up by our teachers on how to create certain videos, which can be just sent on, a very basic phone. How can you reach out to these students? Even when how to take an online circle time, because empathy is a problem. So those few who could connect, because they're probably from a slightly better background where they have an internet connection or have probably a smartphone. Smartphones are cheap also these days, so my point is very simple. It's not only something that's going to make a difference, it's because we are all passionate about education and want to make a difference. We have to reach out to government schools, and it's only then that we can actually truly be called teachers. I was just interested in adding that.
Indeed. Yes, Anjali, ma'am. Seriously.
Okay, now that it has triggered a lot of things, in my mind. I was just wondering this question. I don't know why we were not asking before the COVID times. That how
Yes.
many private schools are helping out the government schools? Why has it come up just after COVID or around the COVID time?
Very rightly
I
said.
guess we have become oversensitive now to things. So the fact remains that the government schools, they have a lot of resources. Uh, I don't know whether I'm speaking the right thing, politically correct, but there are a lot of resources. But their accountability has to be strengthened a little bit in that sector as well. And coming back to what they can do post COVID times or around this time, is that, well, you cannot give them the devices and the technology. Well, that support is something which is not in our hands unless somebody does some CSR, you know. But the least we can do is give them the actual, the transactional process. The teachers can help out in that transaction as long as somebody else comes out with tools and devices which can be given to the government schools. And then I guess it makes a lot of sense to say that private schools are helping the government schools. And I think
Indeed.
this should continue once it is over, even the COVID is over. And if it continues, then it is sustainable. Otherwise, it's just lip service during the COVID times. My
Yeah.
I'm
two
hoping
bits.
for twinning. I'm hoping that this twinning process, which is there in NEP, which has already been laid out. Basically, the idea is this: that you go help out one
Exactly.
team in
Yeah.
school.
One to
So
one.
it's going to make. I think it's going to make a lot of difference. It's just a matter of time. But I'm
Should be
hopeful.
sustained. Should be sustained consistently every school, and that makes a lot of difference.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Indeed, indeed. And when we do talk about assisting in any kind of government institutions, it was more of a thought on the lines of empowering the teachers, not as much as for the students, but in terms of teachers as well. I think a lot of them are not really familiar with technology. I'm sure the gap between technology and what the students learn, what the teachers know, is a lot more compared to in most of the private schools. But this is more of an open question to everyone on the panel. Is how do you expect the teachers to adapt with the constant changes that are happening? Like when we started the conversation, we mentioned that there were some learnings that we took within the first 1 or 2 months. There were certain things that we were doing which were not really very productive. So these are constant changes which are coming in. There are new technologies coming in. I'm sure every single day in your mailbox you have a new ERP, a new LMS, a new online teaching solution which is there. So how do teachers cope up with these constant changes? And what are the challenges and the solutions that you foresee for the year 21-22?
May I?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
It's an open question for. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, Sudhir, I think change is the only constant. Instead of thinking that constant change is always constant. And it's not just in this pandemic where we are, facing this particular challenge. It was always there. Every day there's some invention. Every day something new happens, and learning is therefore a continuous process. I mean, continuous improvement is way better than delayed perfection. We never perfect. Nobody's ever perfect, right? So I just quoted Twain on that. But the thing is that, therefore, any kind of one-off training sessions is never a solution to any kind of, really genuine change in the teaching and learning process in a school. We have to have something in our school. We call it, or at the gyms, schools, we call it professional learning communities. and that's how it works. But essentially what it means is that there is no top down approach. There is nobody, designated as a trainer or some separate department which is always doing R&D and trainings. Every teacher is a trainer, every teacher. And how does that happen? Every teacher, so we have these mentor mentee groups. There are subject HODs, and there are other than subject HODs, there are other groups in the school which may be from different subjects. And the idea is that there's collaborative planning time, collaborative discussion time, collaborative learning time, all these built into the timetable for teachers. It's not, so you may say 100 things and it doesn't end up happening, because essentially teachers have a very packed schedule in every school. And it doesn't mean that you just have to go deliver a lesson, so that time you're busy way more. You're busy all the time because you have to prepare for that lesson, and there is feedback and so much more, right? So it's important to plan all this in there. And what we do is, so continuous professional development happens in different groups. Every teacher observes other teachers' lessons. There's a whole lot of peer observation, peer learning. There's a whole lot of mentoring support provided within. And every week, quite literally, it's not something that began during the pandemic, but it's been there. Every week, there are PD sessions led by different teachers in different groups. So the science team may be doing something which is very relevant to the entire science group. So some job-alike sessions are required at times. Sometimes you don't need specific to job-alike sessions. You need separate other than that, where it's across the board. So all those are planned every week. So a teacher is essentially attending, or not just attending, but also planning for a couple of sessions every week. So everybody's sharing their learning, and every day everyone is learning something or the other which is new, and they are all adapting. They're not just learning from somebody from somewhere. Once in a while, those are also fine, but every day they're learning from each other. And so it doesn't feel like something, oh yeah, you're talking, but this can't practically happen in my classroom. Because if you do a one-off PD session, half the teachers are very happy with it. Yeah, we enjoyed the day, but then this can't really happen in the classroom, because change is always difficult to adapt. But then the only people, like if you go by Darwin, are the ones who are most responsive to change are the ones who will survive. That's the species that will survive. So I think we really, as teachers, have been able to, we were thrown in the deep end and we survived, because teachers, I think, have been the best of species in terms of really adapting. When have teachers not adapted, right? So this is the beauty of it. And you cannot really, so yes, teachers, if I look at just the last year, it opened a whole world out there. Children were suddenly collaborating virtually. There were student exchange programs and teacher exchange programs and co-teaching and whatnot happening across the globe. We have a large network across the globe, but then I don't think we've utilized it as efficiently ever before than now, because suddenly this technology made it easier and more accessible for teachers to do it. So they all started initiating and doing these things. And there were some 150 student exchanges across last year. There were endless international MUNs. There were children reached out for climate exchange projects, and children reached out to NASA, children reached out to children and teachers. So these were different things where they were making a genuine impact and at a global level. That's the kind of, now they're thinking. So these are the things that happen, and that's important.
Indeed. Preeti ma'am, followed by Anjali ma'am, please. You can add on to this.
Okay. See, as Amrita ma'am rightly picked up, that I think there are only two ways to survive in future. Technology has given a lot of opportunity. We cannot ignore, and we can have to count pros and cons, right? So I think continuous training, it is not to be inside the system, because technology has given us the opportunity to reach globally. Technology is a asset. Could you all please mute yourself, because voice is echoing? Thank you so much. See, technology is the only thing through which we will not only grow globalization way, but we will grow in our own sphere also, right? And it is a responsibility of the leaders to give opportunity to the teachers that they should and they must get continuous professional training. It is not only in the teaching profession, but I think if it is in medical profession also, doctors need to upgrade themselves from time to time, whatever latest research are there. At the same time, lot of research is happening in Harvard, lot of research is happening in Stanford, where they are working how the child brains work, how the child learn best, what is the importance of engagement, what is the importance of hot question. I know one, I think most of you must know about the Jim Baker, right? And he told that I hardly give any question and answer assessment in the class. Used to prepare a Google sheet, I used to put questions over there, and every child put their own research work. It's not a one child learning, it's a part of a collaboration. And my second important part after training is collaboration. Not only teachers should know how to collaborate, even now children should also know how to collaborate, because it's not only one class where you can learn. you know Through Google, through YouTube, you can learn from the whole world. And there are many schools, they are very open to share their teaching methodology, they are ready to share their assessments. And whenever we do British Council assignment, and whenever we prepare for the International School Award, a lot of collaboration they also demand from us. Like last year we collaborated with Jakarta school, right? There they show how they take circle time, and here we have shown that how we conduct our extracurricular activity. So all these things are very, very important. I think good school or a good learner is a learner who know how to collaborate and go ahead. And this is a demand of, I think this is a life skill which every child must have. Even in companies also, if teamwork is one of the attribute which companies are looking at, collaboration is equally. Because we all know, to be very frank, whatever we are teaching our student, if you're talking about whatever concept is written in the books, is not going to be used by them after 20 years or after 15 years, when they will join some organization and when they will develop their professional qualification, they are not going to use these things. This will become a history, because world is changing after every 3 to 5 years. So I think we have to teach our teachers and the student how to collaborate and how to be every time ready for the next level of the training. These two things will help the person to go ahead with.
All right, I would just add a point here, sir, if you
Sure.
permit. And
Sure,
if time
please,
permits.
please.
Well, I mean, I strongly think that a teacher in the current scenario, a teacher should be very, very careful of the plannings that were done by the teacher when it was an offline mode of teaching learning. The plannings, if implemented in a timely manner and in a manner that appeals children for learning, I think that's the right thing, right skill that the teacher can acquire. The very first thing is, are the teachers able to, amplify or rather portray the significance of the link between the learning objectives and the assessment objectives? So do the children know that this is an important learning objective, and accordingly, the assessment objective will be linked with it. So this is one of the most important aspects before planning the lesson, before planning a unit plan. The teacher should very clearly outline these two aspects, not only in her plan, but also to the student community. Thereafter, there comes an important word, we call it as accountability. I know I have conducted a particular lesson, but where is the accountability from both the parties, the teacher as well as the student? The accountability of, being confident by the teacher that this particular concept which is being conveyed to the child, he would be able to apply the concept into different scenarios given in the assessment. So if a teacher is confident enough that the assessments are successfully completed by children and applied into different applications, then it is a successful completion of the objectives by the teacher. And the next important stage here is, now with the CBSE demanding the records of all the assessments that the school has taken. So it is very important that the teachers should be taught or skilled to record all the different levels of engagement, all the student responses, the student answer script in a manner that helps out to bring the best performance and to be submitted to CBSE. So these are few important aspects which are there right from the beginning and which should now be modified according to the online platform. And these are the skills that needs to be imparted to the teachers, I feel.
Sure. In fact, that does resonate with all of us. Anjali ma'am, Amrita ma'am, I'll let Anjali ma'am go first. Okay. Yeah, please go
Okay,
ahead.
I'm just barging in.
In
I'm
the
a very
meantime,
quick one. First
just
of
one
all,
request. Can
sorry.
everyone please place themselves on mute? The voice seems to be echoing a little. Thank you.
So I'm just once again I'm trying to understand. I think we have digressed from the question. Can you repeat that question? Am I? Which we just everybody was talking. We were slightly digressed. I was just
Sure.
wondering whether.
But
So then I'll give you the
although
answer after you give me that. Yeah.
right. Although the entire crux of the webinar is to understand, get more ideas. Yes, we are deviating slightly from the question. I'll move
Yeah.
back to it. It is how do you expect teachers to adapt with these constant changes, and what are the challenges and what are the solutions that you foresee for this year 21-22?
Okay, so I'm not talking about the answer. I'm just digressing again from my viewpoint, and is that
Feel
I
free.
think personally, in my opinion, first of all, the head of the institution or people who are heading it, maybe the management or whoever they are, I think they have to understand the whole thing. They have to have a big picture. We are all the time putting it on teacher. Teacher is after all a soldier. Is going to just work on the field whatever instructions given. So the head understands every nuance of the technology that's being done in the latest scenario. I guess then it's going to come and get down there. But there are times when the heads have no idea, but then the teachers have better ideas. And then, so that's one part of the story. The second part is keep up the motivation of the teacher. You have to keep up the motivation of the soldier. I mean, you can say that there are 10,000 things on the field and you should upskill yourself and, do it. And there'll be a point of time where they will burn out because you cannot keep on doing that. And 90% of the people in the teaching industry or teaching scenario are women. They have got a home to look after as well. They also have a profession and then they have a home. Unlike men who have profession and a profession. Home, yes, it's there nowadays during COVID times, but otherwise, genetically speaking, they have two roles to play. So when you tell this teacher to kind of keep on, progressively going up, unless there is no drive, which is motivation, that drive will go only up to some area and then there'll be a collapse. So there has to be a lot of drive, a lot of empathy on the part of the top management to see that while I'm driving them, I'm also giving them the needs to kind of survive the whole scenario. So I thought this is a little digression from saying, okay, how do you upskill? After you fulfill these two things, you're through. Oh, to Amrita ma'am. Yeah.
Absolutely, Amrita ma'am. Please go
I
ahead.
just wanted to add this. You spoke about the challenges that we're going to be facing and the changes that we're going to be looking at in after post-COVID. What are the changes? And I think that there's going to be a sea change because online is one ball game, but what we're going to be coming to is going to be a completely blended format. There's going to be online, there's going to be offline. Number one, many people have spoken about that. It's also going to be, all about collaboration. And if you're talking about collaboration and learning, it's also about a challenge when it comes to collaboration for all of us and for the teachers. You're going to get access to the best very easily as we're getting today sitting at home. So if you really don't change and move with the times and upskill yourself as a teacher, as an educator, even us leaders, if we don't have a vision, if we don't change, it's going to be very difficult to survive. Today, I can sit in my room and have the best physics teacher in the country, maybe at a very, very low cost. I don't have to go back to my teacher if I'm not happy with that teacher. So I think everybody understands that. So these are challenges. Everybody has spoken a lot about adaptability, which is completely agreeable. I just want to talk about one or two other skills, I think, which are really needed. One of the most important skill, of course, is about learning. That's also been mentioned. But to be a learner, besides everything else, I think it's important to be very, very self-reflective. We need to have feedback with us. We need to be deeply reflecting on what is right and what is wrong. What is right remains. What's not right has to be learned and unlearned and relearned once again. And there has to be deep learning today. There was a time in the offline format only when you were not visible everywhere, or people around you or your kids also were probably not as smart as they are today. There's a sea change in the kids over 1.5 years, including the parents. So if you're not deep learners, learning and going to different workshops, basically I personally feel theory learning is also very important to be able to apply it in the practical format. You need to be deeply learning, applying, reading. It's only then, because there have been lots of people who've said a lot of things but haven't been applied for years. But today, actually, many things are now coming out of the closet and we are applying. So I think these are very important skills. There's just one last thing I want to say. We have been speaking about, what are the changes that we can bring about and stuff like that. And we spoke about the government part. I'm sure many of us running very progressive schools come from this mindset. Try and make the difference in your circle of influence. Whatever is your circle of influence, try and do that. I mean, let's not keep blaming, has the government done it, this and that, which is usually another, ball game of a lot of educators. Nahi hua kyunki, government stuff like that. I don't want to get into that. I just want to speak about circle of influence. If it's within my circle of influence, well, I don't care whether the government is asking me to do it or not. Because if I'm looking for long-standing change, I'm going to stick to what is right. And I think that's when actually change happens. I agree with Amrita that you don't have to keep changing all the while. Do certain things. If you feel your gut feeling is it's doing well for your kids, just stick to it. That's all.
Indeed. In fact, very well said. In fact, the entire concept of a circle of influence is something which resonates with me. Because us being from the startup side, right, we are very flexible enough. We can connect with some of the stalwarts of the industry, like I am speaking to all of you today on one panel. So I would just like to open one slight window of opportunity for everyone. Something that that I could do in my circle of influence was that that we are strongly connected with Apple India. So for all of the teachers and all of the education staff of your schools and the viewers who are watching, if you need any kind of educational devices, if you need an iPad, we can have it for your staff for a price which is not even there on Amazon. So these are special prices just for the teachers, just for the staff, and plus they do not need to pay any processing charge, none of that. They can buy it in EMIs of 12 months each. So they can take home an iPad today for as little as 2,400 rupees. So I feel that is a little bit that I can do and we at Finance Peer can do to contribute to through our influence. And yes, I think it's been a fantastic session. I'm sure me, the other panelists, and all of the viewers who are listening to us will be enriched after all of the views by all of you wonderful ladies. So thank you so much, and I would like to hand over to Sudhir Ji.
Thank you very much, Ame, for wonderful moderating and also giving giving out a help as a financial help for a concessional cost to the teachers. I think those who have joined us from across the country as audience and also the speakers here who are the decision makers would make best of it. I would like to thank Anjali Madam. It's always a pleasure to have you. She has been donning several roles besides Hyderabad. She has also a role to play as education advisor, Solan Public School. Anjali Razdan ji and Preeti Kwatra, Chairperson, Petals Groups of School. Thank you very much for all your inputs, enriching valuable inputs. Amrita Burman ji, Deputy Director, Sunbeam Group of Schools, Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh. Dr. Amrita Vohra, Director Education, GEMS International School, and also Miss Rashmi Singh, CEO Poddar, Brio International School, for joining us. We would be coming up with a conclave report with documenting all the inputs which you have given in the form of a report, which would be reaching out to you soon. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Sudhir.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Amay.
Thank you, all of
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
all you
you.
wonderful ladies.
Take
Absolute
care.
pleasure. Thank you so
God
much.
bless. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.